For decades, Mick Hucknall was known for the voice behind some of Simply Red's biggest hits, with the band selling more than 50 million albums worldwide. But away from a stage, Mick was dealing with problems most fans knew nothing about. From addiction to a painful family feud, these are the parts of his story he kept out of the spotlight. Now at 65 and celebrating 40 years of Simply Red, he's finally speaking out about his past. In 2010, the lead singer of Simply Red made a confession that left the entire music industry stunned. Mick Hucknall stepped forward and issued an explicit public apology for his behavior during the height of his fame in the 1980s. At the time, Hucknall was living the kind of wild, chaotic lifestyle that came with being one of pop music's biggest stars. He later admitted that, in 3 years, he slept with more than 3,000 women. From the outside, it looked like he was living the life of a successful pop star, but behind the scenes, things were spinning out of control. Celebrity magazines couldn't get enough of his love life. Photographers followed him everywhere, and his relationships quickly became regular news. Hucknall was frequently spotted alongside some of the biggest names, including Catherine Zeta-Jones and supermodel Helena Christensen. To the public, he had it all. He had gone from a working-class upbringing in England to becoming a world-famous singer. That lifestyle eventually started to get to him. He spent months traveling from one city to another on tour, going from packed arenas to quiet hotel rooms. He became used to filling that silence with a constant stream of short-lived relationships. After a while, keeping up that lifestyle started to take a toll, and Hucknall found himself completely worn out. Looking back decades later, the singer expressed genuine regret for how he treated people. He admitted that his selfish habits ended up hurting good, genuine women who actually cared about him. Over time, he also realized that his constant need for attention wasn't really about being famous or enjoying the perks of being a rock star. They were tied to something much deeper, a need for validation that had been with him since childhood. He reflected, "I was a kid in a sweet shop who couldn't believe his luck," and confessed, "My poor wife. How she stuck with me, I don't know." He explained that his behavior stemmed from searching for approval. Love me, admire me, something like that. But to understand why Mick spent years looking for attention from so many women, we need to go back to his childhood in Manchester, where his mother's sudden absence left a lasting mark on him. In 1963, 3-year-old Mick Hucknall woke up only to find out his mother, Maureen, had packed her bags and walked out, leaving her family behind without warning. Suddenly, his father, Reg Hucknall, a barber in working-class Manchester, was left to raise a young boy completely on his own. Reg did everything he could to keep the family going, often working long hours to make ends meet. Raising a child on his own was unusual for a working father in Britain at the time. Growing up without his mother, Mick had to deal with a lot of loneliness at a young age. His father wasn't there emotionally, and he had no mother figure around to comfort him. He rarely talked about what he was going through, and those feelings stayed with him long after childhood. His home was often silent, and Mick grew up spending a lot of time on his own. He later said that being raised this way made it difficult for him to connect with other children and left him feeling like he didn't quite fit in. Without a proper family setup, he began searching for a way to process the silence around him. He found an outlet in writing and started putting his thoughts down on paper. Those early scribblings would eventually become the starting point for his songwriting. Yet writing alone could not fix the emotional damage. The loss of maternal affection left an enormous void in his life, which gradually turned into an uncontrollable craving for female attention. By the late 1970s, Manchester had become an important part of Britain's growing punk scene. Mick Hucknall was drawn to the energy and wanted to make a name for himself. In 1977, he formed his first band, the Frantic Elevators. The band played loud, rough punk music in small, packed clubs around northern England. Among those early songs was something quite different, Holding Back the Years, a song Mick had written in his bedroom. It was slower and more personal than the rest of their material. For 4 long years, the band pushed through a brutal underground grind. They loaded gear into broken-down vans, played small gigs for little money, and released independent singles that failed to break onto the official charts. Mainstream radio ignored them, During those years on the road, Mick started to realize that punk wasn't really where his strengths lay. He spent hours listening to American soul, blues, and R&B, paying close attention to singers who could make a song feel powerful without having to shout. Slowly, he began to understand that his own voice was better suited to something much more soulful. By 1982, the frantic elevators had run their course. After 4 years of trying to break through, the band split up without ever having a hit. At 22, Mick was back in Manchester with no clear idea of what he would do next. He had no money, no record deal, and no band left. Still, he wasn't ready to give up on music. In 1984, Mick began putting together a fresh group of talented musicians from the local Manchester music scene. Rather than making the mistake he did with his previous band, he put together a group of musicians who could work around his voice and the sound he was trying to create. It was there, and then the project Simply Red was born. Mick's look also helped him stand out, especially as music videos were becoming a huge part of pop culture. His long, curly red hair, oversized coats, and unusual hats made him easy to recognize on MTV. But it wasn't just that. His deep, soulful voice caught people off guard. Critics described his style as blue-eyed soul, a term used for white artists performing classic R&B and soul music. It did not take long for major music executives to notice the band's growing popularity. After witnessing their energetic live performances, Elektra Records signed Simply Red to a major record contract. In 1985, they entered the studio with producer Stuart Levine to record their debut album, Picture Book. In no time, the band scored an immediate breakthrough with their debut single, a cover of the 1982 song, Money's Too Tight to Mention. Driven by a fast-paced groove and Mick's soulful vocals, the track climbed into the UK top 10. That rapid success completely flipped Mick's life upside down. Within a matter of months, a working-class youth who had been struggling to pay rent was receiving massive royalty checks and international recognition. Simply Red was already finding its way up the charts, but an older song from Mick's punk days was about to change everything. Mick started writing Holding Back the Years when he was just 17, sitting alone in his bedroom in Manchester. When Simply Red recorded the song again, producer Stuart Levine heard something special in it. He decided to take out the heavy guitars and give the melody more room to stand on its own. The new version was much simpler, built around a soft drumbeat, understated bass, and Mick's soulful voice. The song was deeply personal for Mick. Some of the lyrics reflected his father's struggle to raise him alone, while others dealt with the pain of losing his mother. To match the record, the band released a music video that visually portrayed Mick's childhood memories. MTV put the video into heavy rotation. By July 1986, Holding Back the Years had reached the #1 spot on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100. For Mick, it was an incredible moment. It wasn't long before the fame started to change his life. He now took trips on private jets, moved from one 5-star hotel suite to another, and spent his nights at exclusive late-night clubs. Simply Red's world tours soon became huge, non-stop events. The backstage was always busy, with fans, partygoers, and local guests all coming and going. His relationships became short-lived, with one encounter often leading straight into the next. Behind all the partying, there was something deeper going on. Mick seemed to use his fame and reputation with women to distract himself from the insecurities he had carried since childhood. The British tabloids quickly picked up on his wild lifestyle, portraying him as a wealthy, arrogant pop star. The album's stars blew past every sales expectation, becoming the single best-selling record in the United Kingdom for 2 consecutive years in 1991 and 1992. Supporting a diamond-certified album demanded a grueling, multi-year international tour schedule. Mick spent night after night performing in huge arenas, and it soon began to take a toll on him. By 1996, Mick was tired of a life he'd been living for years. The women, the parties, and the constant attention were no longer enough to keep him distracted. Instead of dealing with what was really bothering him, he started drinking heavily. That choice marked the start of a 5-year battle with heavy drinking that lasted from 1996 through 2001. Throughout these difficult years, Mick operated as a high-functioning addict. He consumed massive amounts of alcohol on a daily basis, yet somehow managed to step onto arena stages, deliver strong live vocals, and complete studio recording sessions. Behind closed doors, his heavy drinking was taking over his personal life and isolating him from the people around him. After decades of complete silence, Mick Hucknall stepped out of obscurity to give an explosive interview to the British press from her home in Dallas, Texas. She directly challenged the story Mick had shared with the public. Maureen fiercely denied that she had simply abandoned her young son in 1963. Instead, she claimed she left the house to save herself from an unstable situation with his father. She expressed intense anger over how her former family portrayed her in the media. In a shocking moment, she told reporters she would physically slap Mick if she ever saw him again. The public fallout hit Mick hard. Seeing his childhood and family problems spread across the media brought back painful memories. He had spent years trying to escape through drinking. Mick stood by his music and the memories he had grown up with. He continued to sing, holding back the years, putting the same emotion into it every time. In the end, Mick had to accept that some family relationships can't be repaired. For years, the British press painted Mick as arrogant and difficult. Critics took shots at everything from his red hair to his appearance and his very public love life. Mick wasn't afraid to hit back in interviews, and that often led to arguments with journalists. Years later, he explained what was really behind that tough demeanor. Acting tough was just a way of protecting himself. Beneath all the confidence, he was dealing with deep insecurity and a shyness he rarely showed in public. Away from the music and the headlines, Mick was also making smart moves with his money. He knew his success in music might not last forever, so he started putting his royalties into things that could give him financial security. He built up a property portfolio across Europe and even invested in a successful construction company. One of Mick's biggest business ventures took him to the slopes of Mount Etna in Sicily. He started a winery called Il Cantante, which means the singer in Italian. Mick was involved in the winemaking process and helped produce wines that earned praise from critics around the world. After 25 years of hit records and more than 50 million albums sold worldwide, Mick made a surprising decision to bring Simply Red to an end. He wanted the freedom to make music because he enjoyed it, without worrying about radio play or sales. Before closing the chapter permanently, Mick wanted to give his global fan base a proper farewell. In 2010, the band launched a massive farewell world tour that spanned several continents. The journey finally came to an end in December 2010 at London's O2 Arena. Stepping away from the music gave Mick a chance to slow down and take better care of himself. Removing himself from all of it helped him permanently distance himself from the substance triggers that had fueled his past struggles. No one would have thought that Mick Hucknall would find stability in a relationship. After retiring from music, he soon found love. Gabriella Wesbury was the woman who fundamentally transformed the music industry's most infamous bachelor. In 2010, the couple married in a private ceremony at Fortair Castle in Scotland. Soon the couple had a child. Becoming a husband and a father to his daughter, Romy True, completely changed his priorities. For the first time, Mick built a calm, stable home filled with love. Raising Romy helped heal the inner child inside him, finally filling the emotional void left by his mother's sudden departure in 1963. Today, Mick splits time between family homes in England, his estate in Ireland, and his Sicilian vineyard. To celebrate 4 decades of music, Mick shocked the industry by reforming Simply Red for a massive 40th anniversary tour spanning 2025 and 2026 across the UK, Ireland, and continental Europe. Night after night, fans and music critics expressed genuine astonishment at his performance. Even in his mid-60s, his signature vocals remained remarkably smooth, immaculate, and untouched by time. The band released fresh music, including the studio album Big Love, in June 2026, featuring all original compositions for the first time since 1995. They also released a special retrospective project titled Recollections, featuring 40 newly recorded versions of their classic hits. The 40th anniversary tour was documented in the live film Holding Back the Years, 40 years of Simply Red, live in Santiago, capturing 5 sold-out shows in Chile attended by 75,000 people. He made surprise festival appearances alongside legends such as Rod Stewart at Glastonbury. What do you think about his shocking admissions? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification icon for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.